G'day everyone, Mr. Lockwood here. Today's video we're going to have a look at a piece of Australian lock manufacturing history. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with what this lock is. The only videos and information I can find about them online is regarding the ones manufactured in the UK and quite possibly distributed in the US as well. But this is an Australian made Rotalok. Exactly the same spelling. RPL Industries was the manufacturer according to this bottom plate, but in one of the Facebook groups I'm on, one of the users who's a locksmith said that his father was actually the designer of the Rotalok in the 80s, and it's intended to be a high security lock which can take a lot of different high security keying systems such as Twin, Bilock, DLP and Quattro. And according to Ben's post, it says that Love It Tools in Greensboro were responsible for manufacture, so I'm not sure about the discrepancy between this bottom plate and what Ben says. I have no reason to doubt Ben, so I'm going to see if I can get some more information on that. But moving on, these are, from what I can see, a slight bit smaller than the UK produced ones. They don't have Rotalok branding around this outer sleeve. This outer sleeve, I haven't figured out how to remove. There's a circlip that sits in between the internal lock body and the sleeve, and I haven't figured out how to remove that to clean it thoroughly. But when it first came to me, it was full of, I can only guess, WD-40 or something like that. It was quite pungent, and it was messy as all hell. It had black gunk coming out of it everywhere. The lock was filthy, and there was even some green reaction on the brass. I'm not sure if it came into contact with some acid or something which had caused a reaction anyway. And when I cleaned that off, it went to the brass underneath, and I didn't want to have patina and brass, so I ended up just cleaning the whole lot. It doesn't clean up too badly. It's never going to be a perfect padlock. It's always going to have battle scars and dings because it was in use. But other than that, it's really nice. So what we're going to do first is see what it was like for pick resistance. This particular one only comes with a C4 inline, and it's not the most secure of padlocks. But the selling point for the Rotalok was that once the shackle was up in whatever you'd secured it against, it was harder to get to the shackle. I don't know whether these ones had the mid and the high guard version, and it's going to be way too heavy to stay up in the vise, so I guess I'll just pick it in the hand. I'll get that out of the way. Should have checked that first. And the other selling point was, aside from the size and the bulk of the material, the outer sleeve spins as though it's on ball bearings. I don't know if there are ball bearings in there because I can't get in to inspect it, but it does move smoothly enough that that could be the case. You could put a pipe wrench on it and try and twist it off, and it wouldn't be susceptible to a twist attack. The hardened steel plate for the bottom isn't as thick as the other variations I've seen. Looks to be about 2.5, maybe 3 millimeters thick. But that would still slow you down if you were trying to attack the lock. This brass at the top, although it is a softer material, once snugged up in there, wouldn't really give you much purchase or anything to be able to cut through, because then you'd still encounter this hardened steel shackle which has lost some of its chroming. So all in all, physical security, it would have been quite a formidable lock. But the company RPL is no longer in existence. They went into voluntary insolvency in 2012. So the vintage on this padlock is unknown, but the very latest it could have been manufactured, if it was made by RPL, is 2012. I'm guessing by its condition that it is an older padlock though. Once again, only a guess. So, got a feel around. We've got low cut pin there, low cut pin there. Alright, click out of 1. Click out of 4. Click out of 3. Nothing on 2. Feels like I just mashed and overset. Pin 6 or 5. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touch 6 again, and we're open. It is spring-loaded shackle, and it does have a double ball locking mechanism. Now, unlike the UK/US variants, there is no set screw or grub screw for shackle removal. It's all, there's a larger grub screw underneath the shackle. It also has a rubber or a plastic or silicone ring that presses in there, and I think, oh no, it wouldn't. I was going to say I think that may actually provide some form of weather shielding, but it doesn't appear to. Anyway, undo this set screw or grub screw. And the annoying thing for me, because I don't have a key with this one, is now that we've undone, oh, okay, it came off. Other times I couldn't get that off without relocking the lock, so I'll just move on and act like I didn't say that. Next we have the shackle spring, which sits in that hole in the hardened plate. It's actually quite a chunky plate, so unless you could take out that whole portion, it's not going to come off easily. So we'll lock our core back up, which a lot of viewers may recognise as a 570 or a 590 oval cylinder, and they use a Z or Z cam on the back. Now for shackle removal, with these ones, you actually have to take out the lock actuator and then drop out your balls, and the shackle comes free. Again, this is as far as I can go with disassembly. It's not going to show up very well in the camera, but in 2 positions, one, not that line just there, but further up, there's a line where you can actually see a steel circlip, and once you remove the nylon washer from in there, you can get this bolt out as well, and there's another one up the other side. The circlip would have to come into the center before you'd be able to remove the sleeve. I haven't figured out a way of doing that yet. But that's all it is. That's all the core is. An oval. Lockwood oval, Carver oval, anything that fits these dimensions. So you could take a twin cylinder, as long as it has the Z cam. That'll drop straight in. Put your plate in and you're good to go. Other options that I suppose you could use in it would be a carber. This is providing the plate goes over. Alright. This is what I ran into yesterday with a twin cylinder. Okay, plate does go over it. Next question would be, would your key have clearances? It appears so on this one. So with the correct cam installed, you could have a carber core in it. Now comes the fun part of getting the oval out of this plate. There we go. You can see the marks that it leaves on the side, and also the marks in there. A bit of retrofitting may be required. File the side of your cylinder. So if you're worried about keeping your cylinder all pretty, that's probably not the option for you. We could look at a Gen 6, or I'm not sure if the B23 actually is a Gen 6. That may be Australian Guild of Locksmiths, or maybe an Amiga specific. I'm not too sure on who owns that brooch. Once again, fits nicely into the plate. Be able to screw the cam onto the back of it, and you'd have another restricted system in it. And this particular type of rear housing or rear cam or actuator wouldn't work too well for this setup. That actually goes into an ABUS padlock, but yeah, I have a Sentry core that would fit nicely in it. I do have one that would be suitable, but it's in an ABUS 8380, and I don't particularly feel like pulling the padlock entirely apart just to take out a core. And one thing that had me wondering about using a bilock with this, that plate is flush with where the cylinder rests. So the face of the cylinder is right up against the back, the rear of that plate. And the problem I see with bilock is they have a protrusion, so it would not be able to sit flush. That would be sitting against the plate and wearing, and I don't know that there would be clearance enough for the key with all this plastic and that to even insert properly. So I don't think, and this is an exclusive core, so the fingers, the side fingers on the key, we're stopping that then. But even if you were to grab a next gen, or a new gen, sorry, or even a first gen, I still think you'd run up with troubles of the face pressing up against the back of this plate. So unless they made a different one which actually had a cutout to allow the faceplate of the lock to sit in a recess, that would involve this sticking out further, which then would eliminate the security of not having anything to grab onto at the bottom, because it would be sticking out further. So you may actually be able to get purchase on it with a pipe wrench and break it off. I don't know, but for argument's sake, let's put a twin in there, because as it stands, that is about as secure as a wet paper bag. It's just an inline 6 C4, no security pins. So reassembling this padlock, put our shackle in, drop our first ball in, and then you have to pull the shackle out just far enough that the cutout is there for the ball to go into. If you push it all the way in, the cutout will rest in one side, but not the other. It actually protrudes ever so slightly into the middle. You can see the balls. So we go back just a little bit, just enough that your balls aren't going to come back in. And this I have to do upright, otherwise the balls will keep falling in and annoying me. And it just did it, so we'll get our cam first, our actuator. That guy lives in there. And position it so the cutout's upright for the tag on the cam to interface with. And then we have that in. core is in place. You can use our key to open the lock. Now it's not under spring pressure. And we'll poke that through. Tighten down our set screw. And now we have a Rotalok that's now got a twin core in it. A little bit more security than a C4. Anyway, video's gone on for long enough. If you're here after this long, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.